Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to my channel. And we are going to be doing another archetype reading today. This time it is going to be your energy and a person that's on your mind right now. Now, this person doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic connection. It could be a family member or a friend, just somebody that's on your mind right now that you would like to know more about the connection that you have with them. So we're not spying on anybody here. We're not intruding in anybody's energy without them knowing. This is purely about the connection they have with you. So we're not going to be picking up on any other aspect of their life. So if you were hoping for that, this isn't reading for you. This is just purely about the connection that you have with them. But the archetypes will tell you who that person is by what comes out. So you'll know straight away whether this reading is for you, because when we start on your archetypes, it will resonate with who you are, and then it should resonate with who the person on your mind is as well. Okay, and we'll look at the current energy, current situation, challenges and things, advice and how to move forward. So let's have a look then. Let's start with your energy first of all. So just take a moment. You might want to go and make a cup of tea or something and come back and sit and watch this, because they usually go on for a little while. Okay, we have addict to start with. So that's basically saying help you recognise and confront addictive behaviour. And shadow attributes is compromises integrity and honesty, allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. So this doesn't mean that you're like a drug addict or into any substance abuse or anything like that. It could be something simple that you just have an addictive personality, almost like perhaps when you're into something, you're really into it. But you can also perhaps be aware of addictive behaviour. So you might be the kind of person that perhaps you can be aware of when somebody's being clingy towards you or something like that. Or maybe your personality is quite addictive. Perhaps people just generally magnetise towards you. Oh, I've got goddess on there as well. Now, this could be male or female. It doesn't necessarily have to be a feminine here. It does say the feminine expressed through wisdom, nature, life force and sensuality. So if you're the masculine watching here, it could be about your inner feminine attributes that come through, which can actually make you quite magnetic towards other females. Shadow attributes, exploitation of the female nature and form. So you could be somebody that perhaps is quite a sensual person. Perhaps you come across as quite magnetic in a prowess kind of way, if that makes sense. So perhaps you do well with the ladies, or you do well with the men, whatever your thing is. Okay. So we're going to get two more on here as well. So if that's sounding like you to start with, then this is possibly the reading for you. I do think you do well with attracting people into your life. We've got storyteller, light attribute, ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. Shadow attributes is making up tales that harm others. So you could be somebody that really likes a good story or likes to tell a good story. I feel this one's come out recently where somebody perhaps likes to listen to stories or read stories and then pass that information on to others. So it's almost like you've gained some information, some knowledge, and you like to make that into a story to give to others. I do feel like you might be the kind of person that perhaps goes around the houses when you're telling a story, when you're telling somebody something, you go like in depth detail about things as well. Got Destroyer on the bottom. I've never seen that one before. Let me have a look. So what is... I do feel that you've got an energy that people tend to be drawn towards. Like you seem to have a lot that people are interested in. Like you're an interesting person, and I'd say you're also quite attractive as well. But sometimes that can get you into trouble. Okay, I might have to just pick one out in a moment. If nothing comes out, the whole pack's come out on there. Okay, rebel. I think that's your one. You are a rebel. I do believe you are. So light attributes is challenges authority to affect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not serve inner needs. Shadow attributes is rejects legitimate authority out of anger, rebels out of peer pressure or fashion. So I do feel you're somebody that doesn't just take things for face value. You will question something if it doesn't seem quite right, especially if it's an authority. I don't think you like authority. So maybe things like police, or government, things like that, you probably rebel against. You might be the kind of person that perhaps doesn't like paying your council tax or avoids those kind of things, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd say you at heart a bit of an activist, and you do sort of maybe with the storytelling, I think you the kind of person that perhaps listens to podcasts or stories and things or articles about things that are going on in the government, maybe interesting stories that are going on around the world, things that people don't really know, like panorama kind of things. And you will challenge other people's beliefs as well. I feel you will be sort of like, if somebody just says something like, I think this, if they just seem to be spouting something, you'll ask them, well, where did you get that from? Where was that fact from? I know this, what do you know? So I do feel you're quite good at challenging people in that sense, but not in a way to be mean to them. It's more just to challenge their views, to make them think a little bit more. So you've got quite a good, solid energy around you that's quite sensual, very attractive. You do have an addictive personality, so you may have some vices, maybe it could be coffee, chocolate, smoking, drinking, things like that basically. I don't think they're really bad addictions, but it's more just sort of like you kind of like have a bit of a routine maybe, or a ritual, and you like to gather information to pass on to others as well. So if that sounds like you, then this is your reading. I'm going to get 3 runes that represent your energy as well on here. So what are your 3 runes? We've got Lagos, so you're good at intervening. I feel you kind of like the person that will, if there's an argument going on or something, you'll be the middle person. You're good at intervention, helping other people to see a way forward in that sense. You like to create flow in your life. I'd say connected to water as well. You like perhaps spend a lot of time in the sea or in lakes and things like that. Like you enjoy that kind of adventure with water is what I'm feeling. And you're a bit of a dreamer as well. So sort of like, I don't feel you have a conventional kind of lifestyle. I feel like you have dreams and ambitions and desires that are quite interesting, very flowy. And you have strong boundaries as well. I do feel that you do watch people, you observe yourself around other people, but you're also watching other people and how they are towards you. And you're very good at holding a strong boundary where you feel that you need it. If you feel someone's taking the mickey, or you feel that they are taking advantage of your energy or something, you'll pull back. But you're also a good protector. I feel like you're the kind of person that does have the ability to protect those that perhaps can't protect themselves. There's a real sort of like mothering or fathering kind of energy around this, that's sort of like, you will, especially with family, you're very protective of your family and the people in your life that are important to you. Let's see what else we have for you on here. So I do feel you're the kind of person that is used to changes. I'd say you don't like to be in a job for very long, maybe no longer than like 3 years or something like that. You start to feel uncomfortable if you're in that space for too long. You've been through a lot of endings and new beginnings through your life, whether that's relationships or friendships, or work related as well. So you've done lots of different things, moved around a lot. You're a very strong person, and again, this is another protection rune too, but you have a real strong connection with the spirit realm as well, whether you're aware of it or not. It does seem to call to you. You've perhaps had some spiritual experiences, maybe you've seen things or heard things. Potentially you do have a gift of mediumship as well, so you perhaps do communicate with spirit, whether you know that you do or whether you reject that you do or not. there is something coming through on here that kind of suggests that you do. And your spirit guides do work very closely with you, and sort of like that element of like, I'm not going to do this today, I'm not going to go to this place today, and it's them guiding you into what to do and what not to do. Or if you just get a feeling about somebody as well, that's an energy that comes through on there. So again, if that sounds like the kind of person that you are, then this is your reading, okay? So now I'm going to get the cards for, so think of somebody now that you want to know about, that's on your mind, that you do have a connection with, that you've been in their energy, you've either been intimate with them, or they're a family member, or you know them well. You know, it has to be somebody that you do have a connection with, not somebody that you just met yesterday that you're thinking about. It needs to be somebody on your mind right now. Damsel. Okay, so we've got light attributes, understanding the nature of healthy romance, inspires you to rely on yourself. Shadow attributes, waiting for a knight to provide for you, seduction by romantic illusion. So this kind of makes me feel like this is a feminine, this is somebody that comes across as quite feminine. So again, that protective energy that you have over here, so I feel like you actually could be quite masculine, or, you know, take it as it resonates. You might feel feminine, it just depends on what resonates with you. But in terms of energy, you have more of a masculine energy, and this person appears to have more of a feminine energy at this point in the reading. So it's somebody that I feel makes you look at yourself and kind of opens your heart a little bit. But there is an element of them that you perhaps feel like they could be a little bit clingy, or a little bit sort of, oh, I need help, when you perhaps want them to be more confident in themselves, or a bit more sort of, you know, they sound like they romanticize life a little bit from the sound of this, or perhaps make it seem like they need somebody around to help them with things. That's the energy on there. Now, some of these might be coming out as how you perceive this person, not necessarily how they actually are. So just to make you aware of that. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to take those two because they seem to, like, I don't know what that was, they snaked around my arm. So we've got the pioneer. So a passion for doing and creating what has not been done before. And the shadow attributes is compulsive need to keep moving on. So this person has a lot of ideas. I feel like they're a very creative person, perhaps a little bit of an influential person. You know, this day and age, maybe they're an influencer on like social media or something like that. But they do seem to have a very passionate energy about them, very creative energy. There's a little heart there in a light bulb. So I do feel like they're constantly coming up with new ideas and things like that, which could give them that energy of feeling like they're never staying still. They're always moving on to the next thing, or, you know, if they're not giving anything long enough to sort of stick to. I do feel like this person maybe confuses you sometimes, or makes you feel like you never, like they're always surprising you. You never know what they're going to do next, or what they're going to say next, or what they're going to be doing next time you see them. They might be doing something completely different each time you see them, depending on like how often you actually see this person. And then we've got child eternal. So determination to remain young in body, mind and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes. And the shadow attributes is inability to grow up and be responsible, extreme dependency on others for physical security. So this person might actually appear younger than they are. Maybe they're a little bit childish sometimes, or like to play up, or, you know, don't like to take on responsibility, or maybe shy away from responsibility. That kind of represents the damsel as well, isn't it? It's almost like oh, I can't cope on my own, I need somebody to help me with it, I need a big strong man or something. So yeah, this person is kind of like, perhaps seems to you like they need to grow up, or they need to be more responsible. Perhaps they're showing signs of being a little bit too much daydreamy, or kind of like a little bit head in the clouds, that kind of thing. It's not a bad way to be, is it? Okay, let's see what their final card is on here. Advocate. So, inspires you to put compassion into action. Shadow attribute is embracing negative causes or committing to causes for personal gain. So, this is somebody that I feel like they try and fix people. They try and fix things a lot. Like they're always looking for somebody to help, somebody to heal. I do feel they are quite inspirational, and they do come from the heart. And I feel like this person has perhaps opened your heart a little bit. But there's an energy here that kind of makes them seem a little bit floaty, airy-fairy, kind of like not very sort of grounded. But they do come from the heart. They seem to have a lot of heart, a lot of compassion for other people. And even though they perhaps don't feel like they can be responsible themselves, you know, they come from a good place. They kind of come from a place of heart. And they do have a lot of passion and creativity by the looks of it. So let's see what is happening on here. I do feel like this person maybe piques your interest because they seem so different to you. You know, you're kind of like very factual, I feel, very logical. And this person is a little bit more daydreamy, a little bit more romantic in that sense. Sort of like, you know, they can find the romance in most things. Okay, now, so they are the type of person that kind of, they will hold up a mirror to you, I think, and they will show you the parts of yourself that need to be softer, or they soften you in places that you didn't really realise you needed it. So I do feel like this person kind of like illuminates a lot for you, possibly even triggers you in some ways, because they move through life, by the sound of it, very light-hearted, but it's almost like they don't really let things bother them much. They kind of just keep moving on, that kind of energy that we were saying before. But they do appear like they do have a real light that attracts you. It's like they've got a real confidence in them. It's like they come from the solar plexus. They've got a real deep fire in their belly, a confidence that doesn't seem to be shaken by anything, because they don't seem to allow anything really to... It's like this person feels like they're kind of detached from the physical world in a way. They're a little bit more in the spiritual and emotional side of things, whereas you're a little bit more in the mental and the physical. You kind of like are into facts and things that are going on in the world, current affairs and things like that, whereas this person doesn't really seem... I'd say this person probably doesn't even watch the news or anything like that, doesn't really have any interest in what's going on in the physical world. Let's see what else we have on here. They're very committed to their cause. So I do feel this person has done a lot of work on themselves, and they're very connected to their higher self. That's probably why they seem a little bit detached from the 3D world, because they have this clear connection with divine energy by the feel of this. That's why they've got like child eternal on there. They probably do suffer with a lot of existential crisis at times, where it's kind of like they struggle with being in this world sometimes, because they can be a little bit up here rather than down there. I do feel they've had some difficult times in their life though as well, and they've kind of found a commitment to themselves through these experiences that they've had. They've found a commitment to spirit because of these situations that they've had. What I'm getting from that, which I understand myself, is when they were growing up, I feel like they didn't have much of a connection with their caregivers, but they always had this connection with the other world, with spiritual energy. So they've kind of, that became their parent almost. So they've kind of been daydreaming and things through their life because that felt comfortable to them. That felt like their caregiver. That felt like that satisfied their needs, where they weren't getting their needs met by their caregivers. That's what I'm kind of feeling from there. And they are a very kind-hearted person, I'm getting. And yeah, so yeah, they've been through many cycles of growth. This person perhaps is very different now to how they were perhaps a year ago or even beyond that. They've been working on themselves, constantly moving through cycles of growth. I do feel like they have quite a slow energy about them. They're not like a fast-paced person. They're quite slow energy, like to take their time over things, don't rush into things, unless it's to do with somebody taking on their responsibility or looking after them kind of thing, then they're right in there. And I do feel, especially with T-was there, that they want commitment. They want to feel together with somebody, probably you. But there is a time element with this person where I feel like maybe they can get lost in time. Maybe being around this person, you feel like time seems to be lost. That's the kind of energy I'm getting from that. Okay. So that's yours there, and this is your person here. So if that resonated with you at all, I mean, not all of it might resonate with you, but if elements of that resonated with you, then this reading is for you. So we're going to get into the tarot now to see what the current situation is with this connection. So as I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic connection. This could be to do with a family member, a friend, or somebody that's on your mind right now that you want to know about. So let's see, within this connection, what is the current situation? What is your current situation here? Current situation. We'll get there in a moment. Current situation for this person. Oh, so your current situation is about gaining balance, and it's almost like you both, feels like you both want the same from this connection. You both want to give and you both want to receive. It's a very balanced energy. I wasn't actually expecting this to be what would come out as a current situation, because if you're inquiring about a connection, usually that's because there's an issue in the connection or you're not communicating in it. But it feels to me like there is actually some form of communication here, and it's a nice energy that I'm getting from it. It's almost like, you know, well, I'll give you this and you can give me that, and then I'll give you this back and you can give me that. So it feels like there's a little, maybe you're gifting each other or something like that. There feels like there's little exchanges that are going on, even if it's only a small amount. There's an element of creating some kind of power within that. It's like keeping the wheels in motion on this connection. Okay, let me just get a rune to go with that. So the current situation. Oh yeah, there's definitely movement in this connection. There is movement, so I feel like you are in communication with this person. It's not that you're not communicating with them. There's definitely a connection there. And you're both kind of moving in the same way. It's like you're both complementing each other's movements in a way. Maybe you're starting to understand their energy more and they're starting to understand your energy more. What is the challenge then? Why are we here? What is the challenge on this? Okay, so the challenge is coming through as something to do with transformation, or maybe the ability to transform, because there's something about the energy here, and I've got a feeling it possibly could be to do with this damsel type of energy, of somebody feeling a little bit like they romanticize things and perhaps have this idea of like, perhaps I do get this energy of somebody kind of like clinging to somebody, and this person who's a bit of a rebel and maybe got this energy about them that's sort of like, you know, like, don't cramp my style. You're kind of like pulling back a little bit and with that boundary on there as well, and the type of person that kind of does move, likes change a lot. But I do feel like something has transformed here, and that's what the challenge is in this. It's kind of like something's been mirrored to both of you, I feel, as to sort of like, you know, that giving and receiving imbalance. It's almost like you've gone away to reflect on yourself and they've gone away to reflect on themselves as well, and it's created a transformation within the connection, which, you know, we've got that cycles of natural growth over here on their side of things. I feel like you've both got something to do with growth cycles on here as your last rune. So like is death and rebirth pretty much. It's like the new beginning, the shedding of the old and the new beginning, an initiation that you're going through. And that's what this card represents, is that initiation. You've both been through that. This person's is that gentler energy. They've kind of gone through it in, they just kind of roll. They seem to roll with things. Whereas yours is more of a sharp cut energy, where it's kind of like, I feel like you've had to cut something off, or you've done something to disconnect from a previous engagement in your life. Maybe it's to do with that addiction. Perhaps there's some addictions or things that you have cut off in order to be present in this connection. And this person has kind of just been sort of like rolling with it, connected to their higher spirit. So both of you have transformed within this. But maybe the transformation was happening whilst you were in a connection together, and there had to be some form of surrender. So I'm getting an idea that perhaps you had to kind of part ways in order for this transformation to happen. But that's been challenging for both of you, potentially, because maybe you enjoyed spending time together, but have to separate for further growth. Yeah, so this is kind of suggesting the challenge as being about a truth that's hidden deep within. And maybe it's one of those situations where there's like a big elephant in the room. I think I've said this before in another reading. There's an elephant in the room and no one's really acknowledging it. But eventually that elephant gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where it's like somebody has to leave the room, or both have to leave the room. And at some point you're going to have to go back in there to acknowledge that elephant in the room. And I feel like that's where you're at right now. This is the challenge, is there's got to be a death to the old way of moving in this connection, and there has to be a new way of connecting, a new way of dealing with this. And I feel like it's got something to do with a hidden truth that needs to be exposed so that this new energy can come through. You know, it's getting that balance of giving and receiving. Okay, so that's the challenge on there. What do you need to focus on right now? So what do you need to focus on? Okay, this is about focusing on what you wanted to manifest. This is about focusing on joy and pleasure and enjoyment, basically. I do feel like the energy's perhaps been a little bit heavy, a little bit too sort of guesswork in a way. But it seems both of you are looking for inspiration and just wanting to it's like you both want to manifest the same thing. And you want joy, you want happiness. I sometimes see the Sun card in other decks that's like a man on a horse kind of thing, where he looks like he's riding off into the sunset. There's adventure that wants to be had. So I do feel there is something about an adventure that is going to occur between you and this person in this connection. Yeah. Let's see what reading we get from that. So that's what you need to focus on, is what you want to manifest. Focus on the joy. Focus on the enjoyment. Yeah, okay, so we've got Perthrow, which is the classic one. You've probably heard me say this loads and loads of times before about Perthrow, but it's a gamble. Taking a gamble. And I feel like both of you feel like you want to take a gamble at this time. I do feel, you know, even though you've got more of like a straight down the line kind of energy, this person's got a bit more of a kind of flowy energy, but combined you actually make a good balance. And it feels like you both want to take a gamble. And you both bring a lot to each other. Now, Perthrow is also an energy that it's got quite a desire, sensual sort of energy to it. And I feel like that's possibly, I do feel this is a romantic connection, if I'm honest. I do feel that this is somebody that you perhaps have been intimate with or would like to be intimate with, maybe moving on to the next level of a connection if it's a friendship, that sort of thing. And this is kind of suggesting that the focus here is about taking a chance at doing something joyful, manifesting what you want out of this, because it feels like you've already manifested it, and you're both kind of inspired by each other, is what I'm feeling from this. It's actually a really nice energy that I'm getting from it. I nearly lost my cards then, I didn't know where they've gone. Okay, so let's see now. How do you feel about them at this time? Oh, okay. So you feel about them that they're your 10 of Cups. So this is like someone that brings you joy and peace and fulfillment. I see a couple there that's like, it always makes me think of music, this one does. It's like all those singing bowls around there, and there's a flute down there and stuff. So it's almost like someone that kind of, perhaps they enjoy the same music as you, or you both enjoy listening to music. Maybe that's a big thing with you. There's something about children in there as well. So perhaps you would like to have children together as well. You'd like to start a family. It's very kind of, it does feel like you see them as something quite stable in your life. Someone that you want to settle down with. Someone that you want to kind of have a home with, a family with. That sort of energy is how you feel about them. So let's see how they feel about you. How does this person feel about you in this connection? Bet you're on the edge of your seat now. How do they feel about you? Yeah, okay. So I feel like this person, perhaps, maybe you broke their heart. They feel a little bit heartbroken by the look of it. There's a need here for, yeah, the energy I'm getting from this is that they feel about you, I feel like perhaps you pulled away from this person, and they don't, it seems to me, they don't know what you're feeling or thinking about them, because they're thinking that you kind of like broke their heart. Or I'm getting like a sad energy from this. It's sort of like somebody that feels, I'm going to say not betrayed, but sort of left alone, left lonely, that kind of thing. I'm getting a cramp in my foot. Bear with me a second. So yeah, this person at the moment, that's how they're feeling. And it could be, there's another part of this as well, that there's an energy of feeling like they want forgiveness, or they are forgiving. But this kind of energy, it feels sort of like they're stuck in this. But as we said before, if this person is that damsel, or very sort of romanticizes life and things, and they thought that this was going to be something more than it was, or something like that maybe, because it feels like you've definitely had a deeper connection, and you both, it feels like you've manifested each other, but they're feeling a little bit low. Perhaps they're a bit lonely at the moment. Maybe, I don't know if you'd spoken to this person or not, but maybe they're feeling a little bit like lonely, like it's, yeah, that kind of energy that comes from it. But also, I do feel, especially with the rune here that we have with Yara, it's sort of like they've done a lot of work on themselves, opening their heart to love maybe, but perhaps it's been that self-love that they've been working on. So perhaps this person's been focused on themselves right now, even though you've been sort of focused on them and what you want from the connection. They've been a little bit more focused on themselves. I mean, it could be that they've kind of come out of something, perhaps a previous connection, where they've had their heart broken. It doesn't necessarily have to be by you, Although we did ask the question of like, what do they feel about you? And the answer is that they're feeling heartbroken. So yeah. So what is your advice on here? Let's see what the advice is. Let's go with this. What is your advice right now in this connection? Whoa. Well, that was a tower moment, wasn't it? It's brought down the house. Towers. Let's try that again. So, what is your advice in this connection? Ooh, that kind of got karate. You know, I just said that was a tower moment, and the tower card just came out. So it's kind of like, maybe us looking at this has brought that tower moment. Maybe you thought that something similar to the Ten of Cups was going to come out, like the Four of Wands or something like that. So this is kind of like suggesting that there's a sudden change. So the advice here is that there's a transformation that needs to happen in this connection. There is perhaps an element of what we said before about what the challenge is, and it was that death and rebirth and that hidden truth kind of thing. So it sounds to me like maybe if this is what you're feeling, I don't feel like you've expressed it to this person, because they don't seem to know how you're feeling. So it's kind of like suggesting that it might be a challenge. There's a challenge around that. It's difficult for you for some reason, but it does feel like that's what needs to happen to bring about that change to this connection, that sudden change. Okay, so it's you're being asked with that advice that we had before about having a leap of faith, because this is something that you've manifested. So it's kind of like telling you to bring about a sudden change to this. There needs to be a quick turnaround, I feel, because it's almost like perhaps this person is going to move on in their romantic desires into something else, and you may run out of time. Even though they're moving very slow and they don't seem to be moving from this place of heartache at the moment, or loneliness. They sound very depressing, don't they? But I don't think they are depressed or anything like that. They're just sort of, I do feel they've still got that kind of loving energy about them, and they've still kind of got that want to sort of, yeah, still seeing things in a good light. But just when it comes to you, they're feeling that heartache, that heartbreak. So let's get a rune to go with that then. So this is for your advice, isn't it? Sorry, the death and rebirth was through focus, wasn't it? So focus is on challenge. You need to challenge this if you want it. Okay, so the advice is coming out as manas. So this is kind of like unmasking, it's revealing, it's allowing an energy of making somebody aware. So it's all about awareness with manas. Manas is kind of like how aware we are of ourselves and where we are, but also the awareness of other people in our life as well, and the effect, like the impact that we have on other people. So manas is kind of suggesting there as your advice, it's time to perhaps make this person aware of how you feel. And that's kind of regardless of outcome, but we will come to the outcome at some point as well in a moment. So let's see what your hopes and fears are this time. This is going to be another long reading, isn't it? I can see it clocking up on the clock. So what are your hopes and fears? But as long as you're enjoying it, so please, if you are enjoying it, drop a like and an emoji or something in the comments so that I know that you're enjoying it and that it's resonating with you. What did I just ask? I was asking about, what did I say? Hopes and fears, your hopes and fears, okay? So we got the Five of Wands in reverse, and we've also got the Page of Swords. So I do feel like you are actually about to make contact, because the Page of Swords is about messages, like messenger. You are kind of like, I'm just hurt, fuck it. You kind of got to a point where you sort of like, you know, I mean, Five of Wands normally in the upright position is all about struggle and conflict and that kind of thing. So when it's in the reverse, it's like an end to that struggle and conflict. It's like you want an end to any hassles or anything like that. But I do feel like you want to come in now because you feel like perhaps there's some competition on its way in this connection. And maybe that's why you're asking about this particular person, because you wanted to know whether there's any competition and stuff. But as I said, we're not going to intrude in this person's energy. We're just asking about how they feel about you. So I do feel like you've had a bit of an idea about how you want to go about things. Clearly, that's how you're feeling right now. So that's what you want from this. But it does feel like you've kind of got that energy of like, well, sod it. Let's just go for it and see what happens. So that's what I feel is your hopes and fears, is almost like, well, if I just go ahead and say what I need to say or drop this message or whatever. Oh, we've got the Lovers on the bottom. That they're going to receive it. And that's what you're hoping for, I feel. I do feel that from your energy. Is like there's a hope for perhaps you see this as your soulmate or some kind of love connection. Yeah. But you are in that energy of like, well, sod it. Let's just get it out there and see what happens. So, what are their hopes and fears to do with you? What are their hopes and fears? Let's hope it's a little bit more positive. Hopes and fears of this person towards you. I am sorry if I keep laughing. I don't mean to keep laughing. Okay, that's interesting. That is very interesting. So we've kind of got an energy on here of this person's, I feel their hopes are for a new adventure with you, a new venture. It's like they do see potential with you. And I do feel that they possibly have been planting seeds for you. Like they haven't outwardly said how they feel, but they're kind of planting little seeds to try and let you know. Like they're trying to grow this. They are trying to organically grow this with you. So perhaps have you spotted anything that they've said to you recently, maybe in code or anything like that, or they've just dropped some hints perhaps. Maybe they're struggling to kind of come out with it and really say what they're feeling and thinking. But they also, their fears are that you hold some secrets. That's what they are kind of, that they feel like there's some secrets hidden. I do feel this person does have quite an intuitive energy to them. They are very connected to spirit, as we said before, with T was on there, and that child eternal as well. So they do have intuitive thoughts, but I don't think they always trust in their intuition. But they kind of feel, there's an energy of this person feels like they've been talked about behind their back by you, perhaps. And that there's some secrets there, things that you haven't told them. So, I mean, that's kind of been suggested as well in the challenge card with Bacano. It's like that truth within. There's something that perhaps needs to be known, and they kind of sense that. But they haven't heard that from you yet. So it's sort of, I feel that in my throat chakra. It's like, it's almost like they want to ask, but they're not outwardly asking you about it. For whatever reason, they're kind of like planting little seeds to try and get you. Maybe they're saying things sort of like, you know, oh, do you want to talk about it? Or is there anything you want to say? Or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, they might be coming out with that kind of thing. Those kind of words. So let's see. Do I want to get, no, so let's get the outcome on this then as together. So what is the outcome on here? What is the outcome of this connection? Okay. Well, we've got, that's confusing. So the outcome is kind of like we've got the Ace of Wands. But it's in the reverse position and it's followed by the Ace of Cups. Sorry, I stopped there for a moment because I was just trying to feel into the energy of this one, because that's kind of like, it's a bit like somebody feeling like they're feeling their way in the darkness. Like you're both blindfolded or something and feeling your way in the darkness to try and find each other, when actually you could just take the blindfolds off. But there's something that doesn't want to be seen, is what I'm getting from this. So there's something blocked due to that. where it's like normally we'd find this sort of like, you know, as being quite inspirational, quite switched on, but this is like an energy of like two people feeling around in the darkness trying to find some way to bring some light into it. But it's interesting because there's that going on there in the background, but in the foreground there's this new love, there's this want for love, basically. You know, I love the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups is all about like, again, that joy with the Sun card there. It's like joy and romantic connections. So I do feel like you both actually really want this romantic connection with each other, but this energy feels like nobody's communicating that with anybody else. So like you're thinking your thoughts over here and they're feeling their thoughts over here. So if you were wondering, as we said, it looks like this person feels a little bit in the dark about things to do with you, even though they still obviously hold a flame for you, but they are feeling a little bit heartbroken, but they obviously aren't showing you that. And you over here are feeling like you're ready to sort of perhaps bring this truth in, but they're not asking you for it. It feels very complicated, is what I'm getting from this. It feels like a very complicated, that's probably why you're watching readings about it. It does feel very complicated on there. So I'm going to just get one more for the Ace of Wands. So can we get some clarity on that Ace of Wands? What needs to happen there? Okay. I do feel like we've got the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles now. So it's almost like you both know that this is actually quite a stable and secure connection. It's very earthy. I feel like it's almost like an energy of you both know that this is, once you get into it, once you kind of stabilize a connection, it's like a permanent thing. I do feel that there's an energy of that as it's quite stable. We had that first card there of like the situation being about giving and receiving and movement in this connection. So it's almost like, you know, if you had any fear, you are working towards this, but it does feel like there is some kind of truth that needs to be expressed, that needs to come out in order for that to be the case. Okay, I'm going to pick one final rune to leave you with on that one. So what rune do we have for your outcome on here? Wow. Okay, so the outcome is actually trust. This is a rune. It is like a really good rune. It's called Ingwas, and it's very good in relationships because it has a balance of male and female within it. It kind of like is a bit like that Ace of Cups, really. It kind of like is the vessel that holds the life force of you both. It does represent union, basically. So I do feel if there were any doubts about this connection, then don't doubt it anymore. But there does feel like there needs to be communication coming in, because you're not on the same page as to how you feel. Well, you are on the same page as how you feel about each other, but there's an element of what you feel about this person in your future and what they feel about you. It's almost like, I think they feel like you aren't interested and you feel like you are interested, is what I'm getting from this. Just take it as it resonates. So, but the outcome of that is that Ten of Pentacles with Ingwas. So that's kind of suggesting that this is a very stable connection, very stable, a real good balance of that masculine and feminine. It does feel like you have a good balance of masculine and feminine within you, and they have quite a good balance of masculine and feminine within them. You know, they have this element more of the feminine in a way, and you have this element more of the masculine, but it actually brings quite a good combination between you, is what I'm feeling from there. So I'm going to leave the reading here for you. If this resonated and you would like to look into this further, then please do get in touch for a personalised reading. All my details are down in the description box, so just have a read through and you can contact me from there. Have a blessed evening. Thank you for watching this video.